A few days before Christmas, I stood in the arrivals hall at Manchester Airport here in New Hampshire, watching families and loved ones greet each other as they trickled out from the lounge after the short flight from Boston. I was waiting for my wife, Dr. Lauren Bennett, to come home. Lauren had been working in Puerto Rico for the last 6 months, and I hadn't seen her since Thanksgiving, about a month ago. My name is Kevin Harris. Friends and colleagues just call me Kevin. I'm 27, the same age as my wife. While she pursued her dream of becoming a doctor, I took the engineering path and now work here in Manchester. I'm 6 feet tall, with dark brown hair and brown eyes. Lauren and I were high school sweethearts. She was my first everything. My first crush, first girlfriend, and eventually, my wife. We went to college together, but I graduated a bit earlier while she stayed behind to finish med school. We got married nearly 2 years ago, and have been renting a cozy 3-bedroom house in North Manchester ever since. Lauren's first post-medical school job was with Doctors Without Borders. The organization offers 6 or 12-month contracts to physicians willing to work in crisis areas, helping deliver essential medical care in underserved parts of the world. For young doctors like Lauren, it's a great opportunity to gain field experience, and it looks great on a resume too. She chose the 12-month track and started her assignment in Puerto Rico last summer. Managing a relationship at long distance hasn't been easy. We've always been together, always done everything side by side since we were 16. These separations have been the longest stretches we've spent apart in over a decade. I missed her more than I could say. Then I saw her. Among the crowd of passengers, the familiar wavy blonde hair of an athletic, stunning woman came into view. My Lauren. She's 5 feet 7 inches, with long golden hair and bright blue eyes that always stop me in my tracks. Her figure is flawless, slim, toned, and impossible to ignore. Ever since high school, I've grown used to guys staring at her, especially once she matured physically, and I've learned to live with it. Her face lit up when she saw me. She walked toward me with open arms and leaned in for a kiss. "Hi, honey. So good to see you," Lauren said as she embraced me. "Hey, beautiful," I replied, smiling. "You look even better than a month ago. Been working on that tan again, huh? You look amazing." She grinned. "Thanks. I try to catch the sun every chance I get." "Not much to do there besides work," she said as we made our way to baggage claim. We spent the next hour catching up on things from the past month. I'm not much for gossip, and she didn't have much new to report either, just more of the same from her clinic work. Later, while she was in the kitchen on the phone with her mom, I helped carry her suitcase into the bedroom. I unzipped it and opened the lid so she could start unpacking whenever she was ready. That's when something caught my eye. Nestled among her clothes was a sheer red peignoir, sexy, delicate, and completely unfamiliar to me. I'd never seen her wear anything like it before. It looked brand new. My first thought was that she bought it to surprise me, which made me smile. I carefully folded it back where I found it and closed the suitcase. That night, I was looking forward to being with Lauren again. It had been a long month. A part of me half expected her to come to bed wearing that red peignoir. But instead, she came out of the bathroom in a long t-shirt. Maybe she was saving it for something special. I didn't ask. The sex that night was good. Not the kind of wild, passionate reconnection I had fantasized about for 4 weeks, but familiar. Like one of those routine nights when you make love just because it's what you do. She seemed tired, and that was understandable. She had just gotten back from traveling after all. We had 5 full days ahead to reconnect. No need to rush anything. We spent Christmas with my parents. Her family had moved to Florida a few years ago. On the 3rd day after Lauren's return, I couldn't understand it. Why was she doing this? I gave Dr. Lauren Bennett everything I had. My heart, my loyalty, my trust. We'd been together since high school. She was my first everything. I'd never even kissed another woman, let alone touched anyone else. She was my wife, my best friend, my partner in every sense of the word. And now this. Now she was acting out this affair, this betrayal, like I didn't even exist. Like she didn't care. How did we get here? I kept asking myself that question over and over. But I knew there was only one thing left to do now. I had to see it with my own eyes. I had to witness her with him, to know without a doubt that this wasn't just suspicion or paranoia or misread signals. I needed closure. And as twisted as it sounds, I believed seeing them together, physically, intimately, would make it real, would make it final. It wasn't easy to stay calm. My mind was racing with rage, disbelief, and heartbreak, all tangled together. Why, Lauren? Why? Why throw away 10 years of love and commitment for, what? A colleague? A fling? I checked the time. A little after 5 p.m. I walked back into the convention center. Most of the crowd had cleared out by now, and the booths were closing. I didn't want to approach her. I just needed to see what I came to see, to settle it in my mind. I ducked into a nearby cafe across from the bar. From where I sat, I could clearly see the far end of the bar, the same place I sat earlier that day. The two guys from before were still there. Lauren was there too, along with the woman she'd worked with at the booth. But now, a third man had joined them. Tall, fit, sharp dresser. He had neatly combed dark brown hair and a confident stance, and he had his arm casually draped around Lauren's waist. That had to be him, Ryan, Dr. Daniel Reyes. This was the man she had chosen over me. Watching them together, it hit me like a freight train. Seeing his hand on her, like she belonged to him, it ripped me open inside. Up until now, part of me had held on to hope. Hope that it was all a misunderstanding, that I was wrong. But now I saw it with my own eyes. She wasn't just cheating on me, she had replaced me. The heartbreak was unbearable, but it was the betrayal that stung the most. Not just the physical affair, but the lies, the deception. The way she looked me in the eyes and pretended everything was okay. The way she kept saying she was tired, stressed, that her phone died, that she was fine. She wasn't fine. She was in love with someone else. I clenched my fist under the table. Part of me wanted to storm over there, punch him, grab her, make a scene, but that wouldn't do anything except get me arrested and maybe give her another excuse to paint me as the unstable one. Number I had to be smart. I pulled out my phone and opened the camera app. I zoomed in and hit record. I watched as Ryan leaned in and Lauren turned slightly toward him, then kissed him on the lips. It wasn't just a peck. It was familiar, intimate. I stopped recording and slipped my phone back into my pocket. That was all I needed. Walking out of the center felt surreal. I climbed into my truck and sat for a few minutes, breathing in the silence. Then I drove home. Alone. The house felt different now. Cold, empty, wrong. Every room screamed us, but it no longer felt like ours. It was just mine now. And even that felt temporary. The only real question left was, why? Why Lauren? I couldn't sit still. I left again and went to a bar. I needed to drown out my thoughts, maybe hang with some old friends, maybe just sit in the noise and not be alone. I didn't get home until after 2 a.m. I'd had more drinks than I should have. But for the first time in days, I fell asleep fast, numb enough to ignore the ache in my chest. In the morning, though, the hangover only made everything worse. I stood in the kitchen with a glass of water, my head pounding, trying to piece together what the hell I was supposed to do now. Lauren would be back that evening, probably expecting to walk in like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. This marriage? It was over. The only question was how to end it. Should I pack my things and move out? Number hell no. Why should I be the one to leave? She's the one who cheated. Let her figure out where to sleep. Maybe with Ryan. God knows he probably has a place in town now. He works here after all. Which reminded me, I still needed confirmation. I grabbed my laptop and pulled up the Doctors Without Borders website. No mention of Daniel Reyes in the public staff directory. Not surprising. I turned to the job boards, typed in his name. Dr. Daniel Reyes. Location, Chicago. And there he was, profile after profile. Current position, Elliott Hospital, Manchester, New Hampshire. Hired last month, same place Lauren works. I had his contact information, listed right there. Chicago address, personal email, 2 phone numbers, 1 mobile, 1 landline. I stared at the screen for a moment, sipping black coffee on the back deck, trying to calm the storm in my chest. Did I really want to do this? On one hand, I was dealing with the collapse of my own marriage, and this guy had played a major role in it. On the other hand, his wife and kids, if he had any, weren't to blame. But did that mean I should let him walk away unscathed? Lying to his wife? Just like he helped my wife lie to me? Number. His wife deserved the truth. She needed to know. This guy didn't get to destroy my life and keep playing house with his family, pretending everything was perfect. I stood up, went inside, and grabbed my phone. I dialed the home number listed on a job site under Dr. Daniel Reyes. "Hello?" a woman's voice answered. "This is Amanda." Bingo. "Hi, Amanda. This is Kevin. Kevin Harris, from Doctors Without Borders. I was hoping to speak with your husband, Daniel, about a potential opportunity we have for him." She hesitated. "Oh, Daniel's not here. He's already working with you guys. He's in Costa Rica." That stopped me. "Costa Rica?" I asked carefully. "Are you sure?" "I'm looking at our current contractor database and his name isn't in there. Last we had him listed was Puerto Rico." "Yes, he left about a month ago. He told me the new contract started immediately. 6 months based in Costa Rica. You should be able to confirm that, right?" "I'd love to, but we don't have any active assignments in Costa Rica right now. We also haven't had any issues with communications in Central America lately. Could you maybe give me his flight number or booking info so I can look it up?" Amanda hesitated. "Well, okay, just give me a second. I'm not at the computer right now." I waited, heart pounding. I wasn't sure what I expected from this, but something about her voice told me this wasn't going to end well for either of us. A couple of minutes passed, and then she came back on the line. Her tone had changed. "This doesn't make sense," she said, more to herself than to me. "The only ticket I can find is a one-way flight from Chicago to Boston. No connecting flights. That's not how he usually travels for these trips. He always flies through Texas, then on to Central America." "Boston. Do you have the flight number by any chance?" I asked gently, playing my role. That would help me confirm things on my end. She read it to me. I acted like I was typing it into a system. "I'm sorry, Amanda, but I don't see anything in our records. He didn't book this flight through us, and we haven't arranged any travel or accommodation for him. Are you sure he's currently under contract with us?" There was a pause. I could hear her typing again. No, this isn't right," she muttered, mostly to herself. "He told me he was working with Doctors Without Borders again. 6-month contract. He said it would be rough. Limited communication, no signal, remote villages." I kept my voice calm. "Well, all I can say is, he's not working with us. If he is working somewhere, it's not through any of our programs, and we're not funding anything." Another silence. Then Amanda said, "He hasn't taken any money out of our joint account in the last month. Nothing. No ATM, no debit card, no transfers." "How's he even paying for anything?" she asked. Now definitely not talking to me. "Maybe he took a cash advance before he left?" I offered. "No," she snapped. "We don't have credit cards, just one joint account, and there's no withdrawal big enough for something like that." "Maybe he opened another account," I suggested softly. "Why the hell would he do that?" she shot back. I didn't respond, but now she was asking all the right questions. "Yes," she answered when I asked. "There were 3 bank transfers. Same amount, same day of the week." "From where?" I asked, already knowing the answer in my gut. "They came from a different bank," Amanda said slowly. "But the routing info shows it's from a bank in Manchester. Manchester, New Hampshire. Why would he be transferring money from a bank out there?" I stayed quiet, letting it settle. "That's about an hour outside Boston," I said carefully. "I guess that explains the one-way flight." There was a pause. "This is weird," she muttered. But she was starting to connect the dots. "Well," I said, still playing the part of the clueless admin, "we only have one other doctor listed from Manchester. She worked under your husband's supervision on a contract last year, Puerto Rico. She completed her rotation in June. Amanda was silent for a few seconds. Then, wait, what? Why would he be in Manchester now? What is he doing out there with her? Is he working with her again? Her voice was tight, strained. That would explain a lot, I said, letting the pieces fall naturally. I mean, if you're getting weekly transfers from a bank in that area and he's not working with us, it does raise some questions. This is insane, she whispered. Why didn't he tell me he was working there? Why lie about Costa Rica and the flights and the bank account? She paused. Then, with more steel in her voice, who is she? I'm afraid I can't give out personal information about past employees, I replied, keeping it professional. I really do wish I could help, but she's a doctor, right? Amanda pressed. I only place doctors, I confirmed, not giving more than that. Well, Manchester isn't that big. There aren't many hospitals. I'll figure it out, Amanda snapped. Don't worry about it. I'll handle it myself. I'm sorry for the confusion, I added. I really hope things sort out for you. They will, she said firmly, and hung up. It couldn't have gone better. Still, sitting there alone, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt hollow. I didn't enjoy ruining someone else's life, even if her husband and my wife were the ones who deserved the blame. I just helped her see what I'd already been forced to face, the truth. But now, I had my own next move to make, and I'd already made up my mind. Emily wasn't going to be the one walking into our home like nothing happened. Not anymore. She was the one who destroyed it. She could be the one to pack up and leave. I went out to the garage, grabbed both suitcases, and brought them to the bedroom. One by one, I filled them with her clothes. Tops, jeans, lingerie, shoes. By the time I was done, the first 2 bags were bursting. I grabbed a third from the laundry room and filled it with her bathroom stuff. Makeup, perfume, her toothbrush. When it was done, I lined all 3 up neatly beside the front door. Ready for her. No yelling, no slamming. Just packed bags and a silent message. After that, I worked out, ran a few miles, and now sat at the kitchen table with a late lunch, rehearsing the conversation in my head. What would I say? What could she say? Whatever it was, I knew I wouldn't yell. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of seeing how much she broke me. I would say what needed to be said. Calmly. Clearly. Finally. I flipped through a basketball game on TV to pass time. It was almost 6 o'clock. She'd probably call soon and ask me to pick her up from the station. That reminded me. I pulled out my phone and turned it off. 2 can play that game. At 7:30 p.m., I heard a car door slam outside, then the front door open. She walked into the living room and immediately saw the suitcases. She stopped short, sighed, and looked at me. Kevin, why was your phone off? You were supposed to pick me up. I had to get a taxi. And why are there suitcases by the door? She plopped down next to me on the couch and added with a huff, I'm exhausted. This weekend was beyond stressful. I think I need a few days to recover. I didn't say anything. She waited a beat, then continued. What's going on? I turned and looked at her, straight in the eyes. Those bags are yours, Lauren. They're packed with your things. She blinked. Excuse me? I know why you're so tired, I said. After last night? After him? I know who you spent the night with. I know everything, I said, my voice calm and even. Lauren blinked at me, her lips parting slightly. Kevin, what are you talking about? You're not making any sense. You can stop now, I replied. You don't have to keep pretending. Everything's already over. You should have had the decency to end this a year ago, when you started sleeping with Dr. Daniel Reyes. Her expression didn't change at first, but I saw the shift in her eyes, the sharp flicker of panic. I don't know what you're talking about, she said, voice tightening, the tremble giving her away. That's not true. Kevin, I love you. You haven't loved me since you met him in Puerto Rico. I cut her off, still calm, but with a weight behind every word. Since then, we've just been playing roles. I didn't understand why, but I do now. Lauren's face collapsed, and for a moment, she looked like she might say something, but then she turned and bolted from the room. disappearing into the bedroom and locking the door behind her. I didn't chase after her. I wasn't going to plead or ask for explanations. That was her job now. If she had any courage left, she'd come to me. So I sat on the couch, turned on the TV, and waited. An hour passed. Eventually, I heard the soft click of the bedroom door, followed by hesitant footsteps in the hallway. Lauren came into the kitchen. Her eyes were red and swollen. She looked like hell. She sat down on the stool across from me at the counter, the silence between us thick. "Kevin," she began, barely above a whisper. "Can we talk? Please. I need to say something." I didn't stop eating. I just nodded. "Go ahead." She exhaled shakily. "First of all, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I didn't want to hurt you. God, I didn't want this to happen at all. And yet it did," I said quietly. "And then it kept happening." "I know." Her voice cracked. "I feel horrible about it." "Do you?" I met her eyes. "Because I don't think you do. I think you enjoyed it. That's why you kept going back to him. So don't stand there and lie. Just be honest. Just once." Lauren looked away. She sat in silence for a few moments, then finally turned back to me, her expression devastated, but honest. "You're right," she said. "I did enjoy it. I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. It was like I was addicted. Every time I came home to you, all I could think about was going back to him. Being with him. It makes me sick to say it, but it's the truth." Her voice was raw now, trembling. "I hated myself for it, Kevin. I hated how I felt. I hated lying to you, but I couldn't stop." "Then why didn't you just end our marriage?" I asked. "Why keep pretending you loved me? Why fake it when all you really wanted was someone else?" She wiped at her face, frustrated tears falling. "Because I do love you," she said. "I've loved you since we were 16. I didn't want to lose you. I didn't want to lose what we had. I told myself I'd stop. That it was just something I had to get out of my system." I almost laughed. "Something you had to get out of your system? Lauren, you helped him get a job here, in our city. You live in the same town now and still keep seeing him." "I know," she whispered. "You spent the entire weekend with him," I said. "In that hotel. After I offered to come with you, after I tried to connect with you, and you lied. You planned that weekend so you two could be together." Lauren buried her face in her hands, her shoulders shaking. "It's true. I'm so sorry, Kevin." I stared at her. "Are you sorry you did it, Lauren? Or sorry you got caught? I know that no matter what I say, it probably won't fix anything after what I did," Lauren said quietly, her voice trembling. "But I do love you, Kevin, more than anything else in this world." I stared at her, feeling an ache in my chest that was quickly turning to anger. "You're kidding, right?" I said, my tone cold. "You cheated on me for more than a year. You gave everything you had to another man while you barely even looked at me. And now you sit there with a straight face and tell me you love me more than anything." "I know how it sounds," she said, tears brimming in her eyes again. "I know you're hurting, and it's all because of me. I know how awful it must sound. But it's the truth. I still love you." "Honestly, Lauren," I shook my head. "It doesn't matter if somewhere deep down you've convinced yourself of that. The truth is, you killed what we had. You destroyed it when you went to Puerto Rico and made those choices. The lying, the sneaking around, pretending everything was normal, that's what broke us." I leaned back in my chair, exhaustion heavy in my bones. "You want to know why I stopped believing you? Because every time your phone went to voicemail, every time you didn't call me back, you were with him, weren't you? You were too busy screwing him to even think about me." Lauren looked down at the floor, wiping her face with her sleeve. "I couldn't call," she whispered. "I felt so guilty. I couldn't even hear your voice without feeling like the worst person in the world. I knew what I was doing was wrong, and I hated myself for it. But I couldn't stop. I didn't want to stop. I shook my head slowly. Well, congratulations, I said bitterly. Now you're free. You can be with Daniel all you want. I even packed your bags for you. Her face twisted in pain. Kevin, this isn't what I want, she cried. I want you. I always have. I always will. You're the only man I've ever truly loved. I stood up, my hands clenched. Like I said, too late for that. If you really think I'd ever want to be with you after what you've done. I stopped, forcing myself to breathe. You must think I'm even more pathetic than you already made me feel. Kevin, please. No, I snapped. You think you can just say you're sorry and it'll magically erase everything? That it'll erase you sneaking around behind my back, lying to me, disrespecting everything we built together? She flinched at my words, tears streaming down her cheeks. Just grab your damn bags and get the hell out, I said, my voice breaking despite myself. Our marriage is over. We're done. I hate you, Lauren. I hate you more than I've ever hated anything in my life. She sobbed openly now, turning and stumbling back toward the bedroom. I heard the door shut behind her. I sat back down at the kitchen table, finished my beer, and turned on the TV, trying to drown out everything else. I deserved a break after this nightmare. I didn't know what she was doing in the bedroom. Her things were gone, packed. Maybe she was crying, feeling sorry for herself that her fantasy world had finally crumbled. About 30 minutes later, Lauren appeared again. She paused at the entrance to the living room. Her face was pale, her eyes swollen. Kevin, she said, her voice hoarse. I know you hate me right now. I know I deserve it. And I know you probably won't believe anything I say, but I need you to hear this. I didn't say anything. I just stared at the TV. When we started dating back in high school, she continued, you were everything I ever wanted. I loved you more than I ever thought I could love anyone. Even in college, when everyone else was hooking up and partying, I never once even thought about being with anyone but you. Her voice shook, but she pressed on. When you asked me to marry you, when we moved into our first place together, I thought I had everything I ever dreamed of. She paused, wiping her eyes. I can't explain why it happened with Daniel. I could blame loneliness, boredom. But the truth is, I wanted it. I knew exactly what I was doing, and I hated myself for it. Every day I hated it, but I couldn't stop. I sat there, stone-faced, letting her words wash over me. I buried it deep down, she said. Told myself it was just a phase, that it would end, and I could come back to you like nothing had changed. But it did change, and it's my fault. She sniffled, struggling to keep her composure. If I could take it all back, if I could erase Puerto Rico from my life, I would. I would give anything to go back and fix it. Finally, she looked up at me, her voice barely above a whisper. I'm so sorry that I hurt you. If you believe nothing else I say, please believe that hurting you was the last thing I ever wanted. I hope that one day you can forgive me. I hope you can move on with your life and find happiness again. Goodbye, Kevin. With those words, Lauren turned and walked out the front door, dragging her suitcases behind her. I heard the car door slam and the engine pull away from the curb. She didn't say where she was going, whether she would stay with him or if she even had a real plan. And honestly, I didn't care. It felt like that speech she gave was more for herself than it was for me. A way for her to justify her actions, to find some small shred of peace in the wreckage she left behind. She wanted to walk away with the memory of who we were, not who we became. She wanted to leave with kind words, not cruel ones. But actions speak louder than words. And her actions had already screamed volumes. Saying the next few weeks were difficult would be the understatement of the century. Concentrating at work was nearly impossible. Every quiet moment turned into a spiral of memories and anger. It didn't matter how busy I kept myself. Thoughts of Lauren crept in like a poison I couldn't flush from my system. Eventually, after a lot of restless nights and conversations with my parents and a few close friends, I finally did what I should have done the moment she walked out the door. I hired a divorce lawyer. Dragging it out wasn't going to change anything. It was time to finish this chapter once and for all. The only real question was the house. Even though we were just renting, it was filled with memories I couldn't escape. Every room, every corner, every creaky floorboard. Lauren was everywhere. Our lease was set to expire in 2 months, and I decided that was it. I wouldn't renew. I would find a new place, a clean slate, a real beginning. A few weeks later, my lawyer told me the divorce papers were ready to be served. All I needed to do was provide Lauren's current address. That, however, was a problem. I didn't know where she was living anymore. I gave him the last address I had, her parents' house in Florida, and the name of the hospital where she used to work. Maybe someone there would know where she was staying. That afternoon, my lawyer called me back with unexpected news. Complications. Lauren didn't work at Elliott Hospital anymore. She'd been fired, along with Daniel. Apparently, Melissa Reyes, Daniel's wife, had filed for divorce and named both Daniel and Lauren in the court documents. When Elliott Hospital received notice that its employees were involved in undisclosed personal relationships that created a conflict of interest, the administration acted fast. They fired both of them. Lauren was fired for recommending Daniel for a job without disclosing their relationship. Daniel was fired for accepting the job under false pretenses. The hospital wanted nothing to do with the scandal. Now no one knew where Lauren was. I thought for a moment. Melissa might know. Swallowing my pride, I picked up the phone and called the number I had for Melissa. No lies this time. "Hello?" she answered. "Hi, Melissa. You don't know me really, but we've spoken once before. Last time I said my name was Kevin from Doctors Without Borders," I said, feeling my throat tighten. "My real name is Kevin Harris. I was married to Lauren Bennett, the woman your husband had an affair with." There was a pause, then a heavy sigh. "Yeah, I know who she is," Melissa said quietly. "Are you still married?" "That's why I'm calling," I told her. "I'm trying to serve Lauren with divorce papers, but I don't know where she is now. I thought maybe you could help." "I'll help if I can," Melissa said without hesitation. I explained briefly that Lauren and Daniel had been fired from Elliott Hospital because of the fallout from her divorce case. Melissa didn't seem surprised. "Yeah," she said. "I spoke with the hospital administrator. Basically told her that if she didn't take action, I'd make sure the media found out. She didn't want the hospital dragged into the mess, so she fired both of them." "Well done," I said sincerely. "You did the right thing." "The reason I'm calling," I continued, "is because I'm trying to finalize my divorce. I need to know where Lauren might be living now. Do you know where Daniel is? Maybe they're together?" "I know where Daniel is," Melissa said. "He moved back to Chicago. Rented an apartment not far from where I live. Says he wants to be closer to the kids." She snorted. "After spending most of their lives working abroad, now he suddenly cares. I don't buy it." "But you don't know if Lauren's living with him?" I asked. "No idea," she said. "But if she's not with him, I'd be shocked. After everything they did to us, why wouldn't they be?" Her voice hardened. "If I find out anything, I'll let you know." "I don't know if he brought Lauren with him. I'm not sure," Melissa said cautiously. "Could I maybe get his address and phone number from you?" I asked. "Maybe my lawyer can reach out and find out if my wife, well, my ex-wife, lives with him." "It's hard, isn't it?" Melissa said, her voice softening. "Stop thinking of her as your wife. Same for me. Stay strong, Kevin. We'll both get through this." "I hope so," I said, grateful for the unexpected kindness. "Thanks, Melissa. I can't imagine how much harder it would have been if Lauren and I had kids. It must be brutal for you." "They're actually doing okay," Melissa said, surprising me. "Honestly, Ryan was gone so much for work. It's not like they were used to having him around." Nothing really changed for them, and that's maybe the only silver lining. "Yeah. Well, I hope you squeeze every last penny out of him," I said, meaning it. Melissa laughed slightly, the first bit of humor I'd heard from her. "Oh, believe me, I will. My divorce lawyer's a shark, and she's worth every dime. Lucky for me, Ryan's gonna be paying her bill. I'm getting the house, the car, and 50% of his salary for the next 12 years. He deserves every bit of it. No doubt, I said, shaking my head. At least you and Lauren don't have kids, she added. Makes it easier to start fresh. Yeah, it'll be a clean break, nothing to tie us together forever, I replied, though the thought didn't bring me much comfort. I just don't know what I'm gonna do, Melissa admitted. Who's gonna want a 30-year-old divorced mom with 2 kids? I gave up my career to raise them. Now I've got to dust off my resume and find a job again. You'll do fine, I said sincerely. You're stronger than you think. Thanks, Kevin. I'll text you his address right after we hang up, she promised. Good luck. Thanks again, Melissa. Take care, I said before we ended the call. True to her word, a few minutes later, she texted me Ryan's address in Chicago. I passed it along to my lawyer, who sent someone to verify whether Lauren was living there. But it turned out she wasn't. Ryan told the process server that Lauren had signed a new contract with Doctors Without Borders and was already in Honduras on a 6-month assignment. My lawyer explained that we couldn't serve her divorce papers internationally, at least not easily. We'd have to wait until she returned to the U.S. I wasn't thrilled that the process would drag on even longer. But soon enough, something unexpected happened. Lauren hired her own lawyer and served me with divorce papers at home. Clean, simple, no demands. 6 months later, the divorce was finalized. I haven't seen or heard from Lauren since, and to be honest, I don't think I ever will. I wish I could tell you that life is wonderful now, that everything magically fell into place. But I'd be lying if I said that. My job is fine. My family is supportive. My friends are there when I need them. But there's an emptiness that lingers. It's not just losing my wife. It's losing my best friend, my first love, my future, all at once. People tell me time will heal, that someday I'll trust again, love again. Maybe they're right. Maybe they're just trying to be kind. Right now, it feels like every day is just about surviving. About stuffing the pain deep down and pretending I'm okay. About moving forward, even when the past still pulls at me like an anchor. I don't know why Lauren did what she did. Maybe I never will. Sometimes there's no happy ending, just an ending. And all you can do is try to live with it. I still couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, like a spark had gone missing between us. That natural rhythm, that ease of intimacy we used to have, it just wasn't there. I thought back to Thanksgiving, and honestly, those 2 nights Lauren was home hadn't been anything special either. At the time, I chalked it up to travel fatigue. She'd just flown in and said she'd been swamped at work. But now, she didn't look tired or worn out. She was relaxed, tan, smiling, and yet the energy between us felt off. Maybe I was imagining things. Maybe I remembered our old chemistry as being better than it really was, but deep down, I didn't think so. Her last night home came faster than I expected. I thought for sure she'd wear that sheer red peignoir I'd found in her suitcase. If there was ever a night for it, this was it. She was flying out again in the morning and wouldn't be back until late February for a weekend, and then for a week around Easter. We wouldn't see each other again for nearly 2 months. This was our last night together, but instead of the red lingerie, she walked into the bedroom wearing one of my oversized t-shirts again. No effort, no surprise, no spark. I wanted to ask her about the peignoir, but what was the point? I focused on pleasing her instead, telling myself she was tired, that she wasn't trying to make me feel bad. The next morning, I dropped Lauren off at the airport, kissed her goodbye, and watched the plane carry her off again. Those departure moments have always been the hardest, but this time, something else weighed on me, heavier than usual. I felt disconnected. We'd spent 5 days together, and it felt like we were roommates checking off a to-do list, not lovers reuniting. I gave it everything I had to make her time home feel special. But her effort? It didn't match mine. Not even close. Was it her job? Was she just mentally somewhere else? Or had something changed in her heart? I tried shaking the thought, but it followed me like a shadow as I walked to my truck and headed to work. On the way there, I kept thinking about how much our communication had changed over the past few months. When Lauren first left for Puerto Rico last summer, she called me every single day, sometimes twice. We'd do video calls every few days, get flirty, intimate, just talk about random things. She shared the apartment with a colleague, but when she was alone, she made time for us. Then September hit, and things began to slip. The video calls disappeared first. Then the daily check-ins became weekly. I tried calling her more, but more often than not, I got her voicemail. She'd claim later that her phone was off for work, but that didn't explain why it stayed off after hours, too. Still, she always said she'd call when she landed. That was our routine. So, when I got home from work later that day and saw no missed call, I was immediately unsettled. I called her, but it went straight to voicemail. Again. She wasn't supposed to start work until the next day, so what was she doing? Trying to keep my mind off it, I hit the gym in the garage. Working out usually helps when I feel stressed, and it had become part of my routine while she was away. After a quick shower, I checked my phone. Still nothing. So, I made dinner for one and watched TV alone, something that had become depressingly familiar. Before going to bed, I tried calling one more time. Again, voicemail. What the hell, Lauren? How do you just forget to call your husband when you land in another country? The next morning, I finally got a call. Lauren sounded breezy, casual. She said she'd been busy settling back into the apartment and prepping for work. That's why she didn't call. No apology, no explanation for why her phone was off all afternoon and night. I didn't press it. What was the point? From that morning on, our conversations dropped to just once a week. Always Saturday mornings. Any other time I tried calling, it went to voicemail. Every time she'd offer up some excuse, working late, in meetings, out of range. Even our Saturday talks felt mechanical, like she was checking a box, as if staying connected was a chore, not something she wanted, but something she had to do. I had been brushing aside vague suspicions for months, trying not to seem paranoid or needy, but now they had evolved into something far more difficult to ignore. Real anxiety. When Lauren came home at the end of February, things between us hadn't improved. In fact, the emotional distance I felt only seemed to grow stronger. I had hoped that seeing her again would wash away the unease that had been building inside me, but it didn't. We were still best friends on the surface. We laughed, we cooked together. We even watched the same shows we always used to enjoy. But the spark, the intimacy that had always been so natural between us, it felt like it had been boxed up and placed on a shelf we couldn't reach anymore. Our love life had grown. Routine. Mechanical. There were no passionate embraces, no lingering glances, no playfulness. It was like her mind was somewhere else entirely. By the last day of her visit, I couldn't hold it in any longer. We sat together on the couch and I turned toward her. "Lauren, is something going on?" I asked gently. It doesn't feel like we're as close as we used to be. I can't really explain it, but something feels off." She looked genuinely surprised, even a little hurt. "No, Kevin, nothing's wrong. I haven't noticed anything unusual. I'm still happy to be married to you, the man I love. Why would you think something's wrong?" "Because," I said slowly, "we don't connect like we used to. When you're home, you're distant, like you'd rather be anywhere else. And when you're away, we barely talk. You never answer your phone. It's always off, even when you're not working." Lauren sighed, then looked down at her lap. "I'm sorry. Working in Puerto Rico's been a lot harder than I expected. Long shifts, endless hours, constant stress. And when I do get a break, I'm either passed out or just trying to enjoy a few minutes by the pool. It's not that I don't want to talk to you. It's just that I feel even lonelier sometimes when I do." I blinked. "What do you mean?" She glanced back at me, her eyes softening. "It's hard to explain. I don't want to talk about work all the time, and that's always what you ask about. I'm living it every day. I just want to shut it off when I'm not there." "We don't have to talk about work," I said, trying not to sound hurt. "I'd just like to talk. About anything. To hear your voice for more than 30 minutes once a week. That's all I want." Lauren nodded slowly. "You're right. I'm sorry. I'll try to call more often. I didn't realize it bothered you that much. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe this really was just burnout from her job. She did seem to listen, and I felt a bit of relief having gotten it off my chest. She left later that day, and our goodbye was warmer than I expected. I told myself we'd be okay once her contract ended in June, and she came home for good. But despite her promise, our communication quickly returned to the old pattern. One call a week, always at the same time. Saturday, 10 a.m. on the dot. I wouldn't be surprised if she had it set as a recurring reminder on her phone. As June approached, my excitement grew. I told myself that soon this would all be behind us. No more distance, no more doubt, just us, back to our old rhythm, sharing our lives the way we used to. Lauren was due to land back in Manchester on Sunday afternoon, and I fully expected her to call that Saturday morning before the flight, but she didn't. By 11 a.m., I was already anxious. I called her, voicemail. She wasn't working, I knew that for a fact. Her contract had ended Friday. She couldn't possibly have a shift the day before flying out. So, why wasn't she answering? I tried calling again in the afternoon and again in the evening. Still voicemail. No reply to my message either. I was starting to feel like a worried parent chasing down a teenager who refused to check in. I tried to rationalize it. Maybe she was packing. Maybe her battery died. But that feeling in my gut was growing heavier by the hour. Finally, early Sunday morning, I received a short message from her. She apologized for the silence and gave me her flight details. She'd be landing at 3 p.m. That was it. I kept myself busy that morning, cleaned up the house, went for a run, hit the garage gym. But the thoughts wouldn't leave me. No matter how hard I tried, I kept circling back to the same fear. What if Lauren had been seeing someone else in Puerto Rico? It was the only thing that made sense. As an engineer, logic was my compass, and I couldn't ignore the pattern. The decline in calls, the disinterest when she was home, the constant phone shutdowns even when she wasn't working. If she'd been having an affair, it explained everything. But now the question that haunted me most was, what the hell was I supposed to do about it? Should I say something? Should I just look her in the eye and ask, are you having an affair? Based on what? Missed calls and my gut feeling? I've never been the type to jump to conclusions. I'm not dramatic. I don't snoop. I've always been a guy who trusts facts, straightforward and logical. It's who I am. And if I ask her outright and she hasn't done anything, what then? I'll have told her loud and clear that I don't trust her, and that might just break something between us that we can't fix. Number. I'll keep doing what I do best. Compartmentalize, focus on what's in front of me, and try not to let it eat me alive. Lauren was flying in this afternoon, and maybe, just maybe, once she was back home for good, things would return to normal. Her return was warm, genuinely so, at least on the surface. We eased back into our usual rhythm. We cooked meals together, watched Netflix like always, and she smiled a lot. But still, there was something off. Like a fine crack in glass you can't unsee once you've spotted it. Lauren was still the smart, thoughtful, funny woman I married, my best friend really. But that deeper spark, that connection that makes a marriage more than just a comfortable friendship, that part hadn't come back. During her first week home, Lauren had several job interviews lined up. The one she wanted most was at Elliott Hospital, the top medical facility here in Manchester. When she told me she'd landed the job, I was genuinely happy for her. A great hospital, a steady schedule, no more international assignments or time zones separating us. It was all I wanted. As August turned into September, I started worrying less. Lauren seemed energized at work, engaged in her new position. But even though things looked fine from the outside, the distance between us hadn't closed. I kept wondering, is this just what happens in marriage? Does passion fade and get replaced with quiet companionship? Was this normal? But deep down, I knew what I suspected, and I wasn't ready to face it head on. It was a Sunday morning, early September. I made coffee and breakfast for both of us before heading out for a busy day, helping Neil, a friend of mine, with a renovation project in the morning and visiting a job site in the afternoon. Weekends were usually sacred to me, but this one, work couldn't wait. Lauren wandered into the kitchen in her robe and slippers, her blonde hair still messy from sleep. "Good morning, Kev. Breakfast already? What would I do without you?" she said, leaning in to kiss my cheek as she sat down at the table. Morning, I said, cracking a smile. Yeah, I've got a packed day today. Hope you don't get too bored holding down the fort alone. I'll manage, she replied, buttering her toast. Might even head out for a bit. Uber or you walking? I asked, sipping my coffee. Since we sold her old car, we'd been sharing my truck, and today I needed it. I'll figure something out. What time do you think you'll be home? She asked, glancing up. Around 6, maybe 7. Want me to grab dinner on the way back? Yeah, you should, just in case I go out. I nodded, taking another bite of bacon. Oh, and I wanted to tell you something, she added casually. I grinned. You're not pregnant, are you? It was an old joke of ours, back from college. She rolled her eyes. God, you're still saying that? Number, I just wanted to say there's a big medical conference coming up in 2 weeks at the Boston Convention Center. Doctors Without Borders asked me to speak, kind of like a recruitment push, talking to young doctors about the perks of international work. But you don't work for them anymore, I said, confused. Why would they ask you? Lauren shrugged. I guess they liked me. I mean, I did 2 6-month rotations. They probably think I'm a good face for the program. They cover travel and accommodations. I didn't say anything right away. And don't worry, she added quickly. It's just 2 days. I'll be back before you know it. I smiled, but inside, that small crack in the glass spread just a little wider. I raised an eyebrow and leaned back on the bar stool, still holding my coffee. They always reach out to former field doctors like that? Lauren shrugged like it was no big deal. Yeah, it's pretty common. They like doctors who've already been on the ground, done the work, and can speak from experience. It's just a quick weekend thing. Won't cost me a cent, and who knows, maybe I'll contract again with them someday. I tried to sound casual, but I couldn't hide the slight edge in my voice. I thought you were happy working at Elliott. Didn't we agree that the international assignments were behind you now? She gave me that look, half, I hear you, half, don't worry about it. I am happy at Elliott, Kevin. This isn't about leaving again. It's just a professional favor and that's it. I'll be there for 2 days, 1 night, and I'll be spending most of it working at the booth anyway. So, what, they're paying for your hotel and meals? I asked, finishing off my coffee. Just the room, she replied. Not meals. Then let me come with you. I can book my own meals. You're there for work? I'll wander Boston, maybe hit a museum or a Sox game. The hotel will have the space. Lauren hesitated. Kevin, I'd love to, but it's just easier if I don't have to worry about the logistics. If the hotel finds out it's a double occupancy, it complicates billing. It's not even a big deal. It's just 1 night. I forced a smile. Okay, sure. Another time. She stood and stretched. I've got to go. Neil's expecting me in 30 minutes. If you end up heading out somewhere later, just shoot me a text, all right? I said as I headed toward the door. I probably won't even go anywhere. See you later, Lauren said over her shoulder, already walking down the hallway. I helped Neil out with a few tasks that morning, mostly light prep work while we waited for the concrete delivery, which ended up being massively delayed. After 3 hours of waiting, we got word that the truck wasn't coming at all. Technical issues. So, just like that, my afternoon opened up. I had a site meeting scheduled for 4:30, but I called the client to see if he'd be up for an earlier walkthrough. He agreed to meet at 1 o'clock, which worked perfectly for me. I said goodbye to Neil, jumped in my truck, and headed over. The meeting was quick, 20 minutes, tops. The guy had everything figured out. Didn't need the usual explanation of options and layouts. I was back in my truck before 2 o'clock. I pulled out my phone to check for a message from Lauren. Nothing. No update. No, hey, I decided to go out. Nothing. So I figured she was still home. I drove home, looking forward to a shower and maybe some time alone with my wife. Maybe, just maybe, we'd finally reconnect the way we used to. Hell, I was even hoping for a little afternoon intimacy. I missed her. Hey, I'm home, I called out as I stepped inside, slipping off my work boots at the entry so I wouldn't mess up the carpet. Silence. I checked the living room, the kitchen, the laundry room. No sign of Lauren. Frowning, I walked into the bedroom. Empty. I glanced out the back window. No one there either. I wasn't angry. Not yet. Just annoyed. I specifically asked her to let me know if she went anywhere. Was that too much to ask? I headed to the shower, letting the hot water wash away the grime from the day and the tension from my shoulders. After drying off, I pulled on a t-shirt and boxers and stood for a moment just thinking. That red negligee, the one I found in her suitcase back in December, she still hadn't worn it. Not once. I remembered how brand new it looked when I saw it. Sheer, elegant, sexy. It practically screamed special occasion. So, what occasion had it been for? She hadn't worn it for me, not on any of her trips home. So, why buy it? Why take it to Puerto Rico? I walked over to the dresser, opened the top drawer, and started rifling through her lingerie. It was still there, stuffed all the way in the back, as if she didn't want it to be easily found. I pulled it out and instantly noticed something was off. It didn't look new anymore. The fabric had that worn texture like it had been washed and dried multiple times. There was a small tear near the waistline and one of the buttons was missing. She'd worn it more than once. Just not for me. I remembered seeing that red negligee in Lauren's suitcase months ago, but when had she actually worn it? She certainly never wore it for me, and a delicate piece like that doesn't get worn down unless it's been used a lot. And realistically, there's only one type of situation where a woman wears something like that repeatedly. And it wasn't for me. I folded it back up and tucked it deep into the drawer, the same way Lauren had hidden it. I tried not to let the anger boil over, but the truth was creeping up on me. My wife, the woman I had built a life with, might be hiding things I was too afraid to see. Where the hell was she anyway? I grabbed my phone and called her, but surprise, straight to voicemail. Again. I clenched my jaw. How many times was I going to let this slide? Fine. I needed a distraction. I went back to the kitchen, prepped the steaks, tossed them in a marinade, and decided to hit the garage gym for a bit. Sweating it out was better than stewing in my own thoughts. By 5:30, I heard the front door close. Lauren was home. She didn't call out, just went straight to the bathroom. That was weird. She had to know I was home. My truck was parked in the driveway like always. No hello, no, hey babe, I'm back, nothing. Something was off. Again. When I heard the water shut off, I made my way to the bedroom. Part of me wanted to see her, to reconnect. Hell, I still thought she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever known. She came out wrapped in a robe, damp hair clinging to her shoulders, but instead of getting dressed in front of me like she usually would, she sat on the edge of the bed and started brushing her hair, keeping that robe tightly wrapped. "Why didn't you text me? I asked you to let me know if you were going anywhere," I said. She rolled her eyes. "What are you, my dad now?" I narrowed mine. "Sorry for worrying about my wife. Maybe I should worry less, like you seem to." "I was with some friends, Kevin. I didn't think I needed to check in with you every hour," she snapped back. "Then why was your phone off?" "It wasn't," she said quickly. "I must have accidentally left it on silent or something." I stood there, not sure what to say. I wanted to call her out, but I had no hard proof. Just a whole lot of suspicion and the gut feeling that something wasn't right. If I said too much, I'd just come off like a jealous husband. So I bit my tongue. "Did you at least pick up anything for dinner?" she asked, trying to change the subject. "I marinated some steaks. I'll throw them on the grill in a bit. Maybe you can help with the salad?" "Sure," she replied. "But clean the grill first." "Go on." I smirked. What? And missed the best part of the day, watching my gorgeous wife, fresh out of the shower? "You've seen it all 1,000 times, she said, brushing me off. "Doesn't mean I don't enjoy it," I said with a wink. "Just clean the grill," she repeated, more firmly this time. "Fine, but first, I need to use the bathroom." "I'll just grab the clothes I wore and throw them in the wash," she said quickly, rushing toward the laundry basket before I could get there. That was strange. As I stood in the bathroom, a weird thought hit me. Why did she suddenly need to grab her clothes right before I could? What was she worried I'd see? When I was done, I walked toward the laundry room and noticed the machine was already running. I lifted the lid. Inside were just the clothes we'd worn that day, barely enough for a full load. So why the rush to start the wash? Was she trying to erase something? Maybe I was reading too much into it, or maybe I wasn't. Maybe I was finally starting to put the pieces together. The next 2 weeks passed in the same pattern. We talked, we ate, we went to bed, but nothing changed. We were stuck in neutral. I kept hoping something would click again, that spark would come back. But it didn't. Not really. And now, with the Boston trip approaching, I couldn't stop thinking about it. What if she wasn't just working that weekend? What if she was meeting someone? I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was just insecure, but deep down I couldn't ignore the feeling anymore. Lauren wasn't the same, not since Puerto Rico. And I didn't feel like her husband anymore. I felt like a placeholder. So I made a decision. Friday night I was going to remind her who she was married to, reignite something, give her a night she wouldn't forget. But when I reached for her that evening, she pulled away. "I can't, babe," she said. "It's that time of the month." Again? It had only been 2 weeks. At least, I thought so. I'd never stooped so low as to ask Lauren to prove it with a sanitary pad. That kind of accusation isn't who I am, though the thought flashed through my mind. She knew I wouldn't go that far. Saturday morning, I dropped her off at the station. She gave me a quick kiss, barely more than a polite gesture, and then disappeared inside, wheeling her modest suitcase behind her. I watched her go and tried to ignore the tension twisting in my stomach. Back home, I had a whole weekend ahead of me with nothing planned. No errands, no obligations, just an empty house and too much time to think. I went up to our bedroom and sat on the edge of the bed, staring blankly at the floor. Maybe I'd work out, go for a long run, try to exhaust the questions spiraling in my mind. Then I noticed her underwear drawer. Lauren had left it slightly open when she packed this morning. I stood up to close it, but something stopped me. That damn red negligee. It was more than lingerie now. It was a symbol, a neon sign blinking in my brain, screaming, "Something's not right. Something's being hidden." I opened the drawer, expecting to find it, maybe tucked behind some folded cotton briefs or hidden beneath a stack of bras. Nothing. I began pulling things out, gently at first, then more frantically. I emptied the drawer onto the bed and sorted through each piece of clothing. It wasn't there. A chill ran through me. Did she take it with her? I checked everywhere. Other drawers, the bathroom laundry basket, even the washer and dryer. Empty. I looked through the trash, even though it made no sense for her to throw it away. Gone. She took it. Why? For what? Or for who? No more excuses. No more, "Maybe I'm overthinking things." This wasn't paranoia anymore. I knew now, deep in my gut, that Lauren had cheated. I didn't know who it was, but it had to have started back in Puerto Rico. Some colleague from Doctors Without Borders, no doubt. And now, if she was meeting someone, it was probably at this conference. Maybe that red negligee would make its appearance tonight in some hotel room that wasn't ours. What stung most wasn't even the act. It was the pattern. The emotional distancing, the fading intimacy, the deflection, the lies. I was done speculating. The engineer in me, the part that lives on proof and facts, needed confirmation. Tangible, visual, real. I changed into jeans, a polo shirt, and a jacket. I grabbed my keys and left. I was going to Boston. The conference was at the convention center. I entered the large exhibit hall, snagged a brochure from the welcome desk, and scanned the layout until I found the Doctors Without Borders booth. My heart was thumping harder than it should have been as I made my way in that direction. I didn't plan on confronting her. That would have been reckless. No, I'd stay back, observe, watch her. Watch who she talked to. Maybe I'd catch something subtle, or maybe I'd catch everything. I drifted around the booths, pretending to listen to reps pitch medical software and equipment while keeping Lauren in my peripheral vision. She was behind the table, chatting with another woman. 2 guys, likely colleagues, flanked the booth, engaging with passers-by. From a safe distance, I watched for over 2 hours. Nothing. No touching, no flirtation, just polite, professional behavior. Maybe I was wrong again. Maybe I was just a husband losing his mind. Eventually, the two guys left. Lauren and her coworker held down the booth themselves. She continued to chat with attendees, smiling that same public smile I'd seen 100 times before. Friendly, not personal. I started to feel ridiculous, but still, something kept gnawing at me. I decided to get lunch and clear my head. I headed to the nearby food court and found a seat, scarfed down a burger without really tasting it, and told myself to just let it go. On the way back, I looped past the booth again. Lauren wasn't there. The two guys had returned. No sign of her or the woman she'd been with. They had to be on break. I turned toward the restaurants. If she was eating, maybe I'd catch sight of her. I passed the first restaurant. Nothing. Then the second. Still nothing. At the third, tucked away in a quieter corner of the concourse, I spotted her. Lauren was sitting with the same woman from earlier, the one who'd worked beside her all morning. They were leaned in close, laughing about something. I froze, turned away instinctively, heart pounding, and slipped into an empty booth at the far end of the restaurant. What was I even doing? Why was I hiding from my own wife? As I sat there, pretending to be just another guy nursing a drink, I couldn't shake the knot in my gut. What the hell was I doing? Spying on my wife, watching her like I was some low-rent private investigator? This wasn't me. Lauren deserved better than to be stalked by her own husband, didn't she? Or maybe I was just trying to convince myself I was still the good guy. I stood up, took a breath, and walked out toward the parking garage, telling myself I was done, that I had to let it go. But just as I reached my truck, I stopped, turned around, and walked back in. I told myself I just wanted one last look, closure maybe. Or maybe I just couldn't let go. I found her again at the Doctors Without Borders booth, talking with that same woman from earlier. The two men were back too. I studied them closely. Was one of them the guy she was cheating with? One of them was heavier set, round face, soft build. Definitely not her type. The other was older, thinning hair, tall and lanky, maybe early 50s. Not what I imagined when I pictured her other man. Their conversations looked ordinary, even a bit boring. No flirtation, no chemistry. Maybe I was being paranoid. Maybe my mind had spiraled just because our sex life had cooled off. Because the woman I used to fall asleep holding now kept her distance. Maybe I was inventing a villain where there wasn't one. It was already past 3. The conference floor would close in 2 hours. I figured I'd wait and see where she went afterward, who she left with. I needed to know. But first, I needed a beer. I headed over to a bar I'd seen earlier near the food court. It was already buzzing with early evening noise. I grabbed a stool at the far end, the only one open. The 3 people next to me were jabbering about work, sounded like they were with a tech company or something. It was hard to focus on anything else, but eventually they left, and I was able to settle in with my second beer. I kept it light. I still had to drive home later. Then 2 guys took the empty stools next to me. I looked over and immediately recognized them, same 2 from Lauren's booth. The first thought that hit me was, damn, what if Lauren shows up here now and sees me? But then it occurred to me, maybe she was still at the booth because if these guys were here, someone had to be covering the table. They were chatting casually, talking about people they knew, laughing in that easy way coworkers do after a long day on their feet. I tuned them out for a while, but then I heard one of them say her name. You know Dr. Lauren Bennett, right? Blonde, smart, beautiful. She was at the booth today. My stomach tightened. No, the other replied. I've never worked in Puerto Rico. I've been in Guatemala and Honduras. First time seeing her was today. She's stunning though. Guy who's married to her must be lucky. I smiled bitterly into my beer. I was lucky, or maybe not. Well, the first guy said with a laugh, I don't know how lucky he really is. He leaned in slightly, his tone a little more hushed but still audible. I was in Puerto Rico with her, worked with Ryan Reyes. You know him? He was the senior doc there. They were close. Ryan Reyes. My hands clenched around my glass. Yeah, I know Ryan, the other guy replied. Worked with him in Honduras, thought he was a good guy, married kids, the whole nine. Exactly, the first man said, lowering his voice just a notch. Didn't stop him. It wasn't some innocent office flirtation either. It was intense. Like, really intense. She came in looking like this sweet, bright-eyed angel, and the next thing we knew, she was in his room every night. They moved in together in the dorms, for God's sake. No one even tried to hide it. I stared straight ahead, the world around me fading out. The man kept talking, casually blowing up my entire life. They shouldn't have gotten away with it, man. Two married people shacking up like that. It was a joke. But he was in charge, so nobody said a word. She left just before Christmas. After that, he started acting like she was some secret he couldn't talk about. The guy took a sip of his drink and laughed to himself. What a mess. I sat there stunned. Every moment of doubt I'd tried to dismiss over the last year was now pounding like a drum in my chest. I had feared this exact thing, but to hear it confirmed, to know it wasn't just paranoia. I didn't even feel the glass in my hand anymore. I had all the proof I needed, and somehow, I still didn't know what the hell to do next. I couldn't believe what I'd just heard. I felt gutted, completely hollow inside. So Ryan, Dr. Daniel Reyes, he got what he wanted, huh? Slept with my wife for months overseas, and now he's done and back in Chicago? Back to his wife and kids like nothing ever happened except… Apparently not. I remembered Lauren telling me Ryan had just taken a position at Elliott Hospital, our hospital, right here in Manchester, a month ago. I didn't think much of it when she mentioned it. She'd said it in passing, casually. But now, hearing this, it was all starting to make sickening sense. Oh yeah, one of the guys said casually, still seated next to me. She said he's working with her now at Elliott. Probably helped him get the job, though she'd never admit it. Wait, he's divorced? The older balding guy asked. He left his wife and kids to be with her? I asked her, kind of joking, but she said no. He's just working with her for a while, whatever that means, the other replied. I bet Ryan told his wife he was off doing some noble international contract while he was shacked up with a younger doctor in Puerto Rico. Dude must have balls of steel. I gripped the edge of the bar stool. My throat was dry. I wanted to slam my beer glass down and demand they shut up, but I couldn't even move. Seriously, that's messed up, the older man muttered, shaking his head. Two married people, both with good lives back home, and they throw it away for what? Some intense beachside fling? Hey, don't judge, the bigger guy said, grinning. You didn't see Lauren sunbathing topless. Jesus, that body, her breasts. Man, if you saw her on that beach, you'd probably forget your morals too. I felt sick. No way, the older guy said. I couldn't live with myself if I did that to my wife. No matter how gorgeous she is, it's not worth it. The big guy chuckled, undeterred. Well, she's definitely back at it with Ryan now. I mean, come on, they're working together again, right? Probably right now back at the hotel, doing the same thing they were doing in Puerto Rico. She'll come back to her husband, like it's just another work trip. Man, Ryan's probably going to wear her out all night. Can we not talk about this when she walks back in? The balding guy added quietly. It's not really our business. Yeah, I know. The bigger guy muttered, taking a sip of his beer. Still. Damn. I sat there frozen. Their voices kept going, but I'd stopped hearing them. I was just staring into the past year, watching it all finally make sense. Everything added up now. Every distance moment, every missed call, every half-hearted kiss, the way she pulled away when I tried to touch her, the red negligee I never saw her wear, the silent phone, the work excuses, the emotional void, it all made sense. Last Saturday, she wasn't unreachable because of errands or a girl's day out. Number she was in his hotel room. She was with him. She didn't pick up because she was screwing Ryan Reyes. And when she got home and ran straight into the shower, washing away the afternoon, washing away him, she didn't even flinch. That's why she wouldn't let me see her undress. That's why she did laundry so fast. Why her mood shifted. Why the negligee was missing. I clenched my jaw so tight my head hurt. I wanted to walk over and ask the fat guy what else he knew. I wanted to hit something. Anything. But I stayed still. I forced myself to breathe. I stood up calmly, dropped some cash on the counter, and walked out. If anyone had bumped into me just then, I swear I might have punched them. I sat outside the convention center, trying to collect myself. The sun was dipping behind the building. It was after 4:30 now. Did I want to stay and see them together? Did I want to confirm the final piece of the puzzle? Not really. I didn't need to see Ryan Reyes. I didn't need to know if he was tall or smooth or what kind of smile he had. I didn't care. All I cared about was that Lauren, Dr. Lauren Bennett, the woman I'd loved since I was a teenager, had lied to me over and over again. She had betrayed me, not just once, but for months. Then she brought him home, right into our town, into our hospital, into our lives. She kept sleeping next to me, kept pretending. She had every chance to come clean. She could have told me the truth when she came back from Puerto Rico. She could have told me when she helped him get the job at Elliott. But she didn't. She looked me in the eye. She kissed me. And she lied. And now, she was probably lying in another hotel bed with him. And tomorrow, she'd come home to me like none of it happened.